Bets presented by BetRivers, hosted by us, the three-man weave, Jim Root, Kai McHugh, Matt Cox. I don't know if that's the correct sides. You're just going to have to deal with it. But we are back for another season to talk you through the NCAA basketball slate. It is day one. There are 126 line games today. But before we get to that, fellas, before I even get to you, the sponsor of the show is BetRivers. And if you are looking to place a little college hoops parlay, BetRivers got an offer for you. Place a 4-leg parlay of $25 or more, and BetRivers will give you a free 20% profit boost for a week. That is going till at least January, so we might as well use it. Kai, Matt, I know we don't always go for parlays, but if you get a profit boost, they might actually be plus EV. Matthew, how do you feel about that?
I strongly endorse it. Take advantage of those gifts that the books will give you usually only once when you first sign up. But Jim, Kai, so good to be back with you guys for another fun season. This is having a nice little time for me throughout the day. I don't really talk to people, so it's good to see human faces, and we kind of can share our support when it's going rough, and then obviously beat our chest, Kai, when it's going well. So we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just stoked for the season to be back, baby. I'm stoked for the show. I'm stoked to talk to you guys, see the chat. Let's go. I'm amped. Let's get it started.
Let's do it. Let's get into it. There is no holy F, this game is the featured one we've got to get into. There's no ranked battle today. But as ESPN's Jeff Borzello pointed out, this is the first time in the history of college basketball that every single top 25 team will play on the same day. That's pretty cool. We're going to start with an unranked matchup, though. Memphis at Vanderbilt, an in-state battle for Tennessee. Memphis has a gauntlet of a non-conference slate, so not surprising to see them start with a big one here. Kyle, go to you first. We've got two athletic teams. Memphis, that's kind of what they're most known for. Very old team. Are you worried about the point guard situation, Vandy? How do you see this one shaping up?
Yeah, battle of NBA legends, by the way, Jim. Stackhouse, Hardaway, 90s, dial it up, Matthew. I know I had a Stackhouse and a Hardaway jersey growing up. That's right, Teal Pistons,
Did you really?
Pinstripe Orlando Magic. Of course I did. I'm a big NBA guy, you know me. Maybe a little bit surprising seeing the spread a little bit tighter than I think most might assume, given Vandy lost Pippen, given it is Memphis. Vanderbilt's offense was terrible last season when Pippen was out.
Yeah.
Close to 300th in the country if he would have been out the entire year. Now, of course, he played a lot of minutes, small sample size. But, Matt, I think it's concerning. I think Manjon taking over at point guard from UC Davis is concerning because he hasn't seen a whole lot of competition. This level of competition, that is, these athletes. It might overwhelm him. Note for Memphis, though, Franklin, not eligible yet. They don't have him in the pocket. And Memphis is still, like Jim said, super experienced. Not a lot of freshmen this season. Not on the radar as much this year.
Yeah, old grizzled vets. It's that version of Memphis that I like. But the spread opened at -1.5. It's been bet up to 3. I was leaning the Tigers. Pretty short road trip over to Vandy. I know it's a decent home court. It's kind of that weird, funky gym, but not exactly a tenuous travel. Jim, my take here is just the stack versus penny thing. I think both teams have underrated defenses. Memphis, well known for having good defense, but I think this year could be like elite. And he's already had elite defenses there in the years past. But I just think the positional length he has across the front line and on the perimeter. I think Vandy has a major time scoring. You're right, Kai, behind on the engine of their little mini maestro, Ezra Mannion.
I like Manjon as the nickname for him. I'm into
Man
that.
John.
I figured I said it wrong, Jim. When you
no, but
smiled.
I genuinely like Manjon.
Man
I
John.
think
Little
it's
John.
funny. But Matt, that's the direction I was going to go, more towards an underlean here. I didn't bet this one, but I think both teams struggle to score. Memphis can't really shoot other than Kendrick Davis, like up and down the roster. There's really bleak perimeter shooting. And Liam Robbins is like a phenomenal rim protecting big. So if you have to score at the basket and he's healthy and out there and able to stay out of foul trouble, then I think both teams could really struggle to score here. I don't know if this is like elite Memphis defense, like top 5, just because they do have a small point guard in Kendrick Davis, and they don't have like the rim protector, the Duran, the Musa Cisse, like unless KO, the big alien, becomes that. But we'll see. I would lean towards the under. I didn't bet it. That's pretty much where I land. Kai, any bets for you, or should we move on?
No bets here, Jim. I'm actually leaning towards Vandy at home. The coaching mismatch intrigues me. Stackhouse voted best X's and O coach in the almanac. That's right, by other SEC coaches. Hardaway, we all have questions about him.
Yeah, a little bit. We'll see. Let's move on, though. This one's definitely getting some interest. It has got some interest in the betting markets if you're following the number. George Mason at Auburn. We know that the Patriots went to Maryland and started the beginning of the end for Mark Turgeon last year. Bruce Pearl, nowhere near that kind of trouble. I have a lot of thoughts on this game, so I'll wait till it comes back to me. Matt, I'll kick it to you first. What are you looking at here?
Well, sorry, what game? I was looking at another game, Jim.
George Mason.
I'm off to a slug. Oh yeah, Mason Moneyline. I'm so excited. I forgot when that was. I think the fighting Matty Moneyline's returns with his debut with your favorite former Mizzou alumnus, Kim English. The boys going into the jungle down there in Auburn. Got to get it done. Now, this line is short, Kai. I know you're on my side here with Mason, but it does feel a little bit short, especially against home Auburn, which is always very scary. Plenty of injury question marks for the Tigers. I think they come out sluggish, but does the talent still overwhelm Mason? A Mason team that has a pretty thin backcourt. I think if we're being kind, the strength for this Mason team's up front. So can Joshua Drew punish Auburn up front without Jonah Broom? And can Mason's guards sort of go into that hostile environment and not completely, lose their minds, I guess?
Yeah, I think the lines come down a little bit too far. I'm seeing it under 10 at some places, maybe a little bit too far for me. Can Mason be giant killers again this year? It'll be tough in this game. Now, their top four is excellent. Oduro, Bailey, Gaines, Cooper. That's a legit power level foursome right there. But like you said, Matt, point guard is a huge question. It's the biggest question on George Mason's team. And Jim, against Auburn's quick guards, that's a big problem. I would also probably monitor Janai Broom's status in this game, because if he's in, that negates Josh Oduro pretty nicely, even though the big man can step out and shoot the three. I think the starters can go toe-to-toe with Auburn, Jim. I am a little bit hesitant on their depth. Again, it's fallen a bit too far for me to give a play on Mason.
Yeah, I'm thinking about 9.5 taking Auburn here. I just last year, I know it's a different Auburn team, it's a different Mason team, but Auburn laid 12.5 at home to Murray, 21.5 to Georgia, 10 to Oklahoma, 12 to A&M, 14 to Vandy, 15.5 to Ole Miss, 15 to South Carolina. It's only 9.5 to George Mason. I don't love that. Bruce Pearl's a home favorite, Kai. Can I interest you in a stat?
I bet he's pretty good.
44 and 24 over the last 5 years, plus 3 cover margin. This is an awesome home team. As frustrating as Wendell Green and Katie Johnson can be, I think when they have the hype home crowd on their side, they can kind of go on some runs. And again, like you said, Kai, this is a George Mason team with point guard questions. I don't want to go into the jungle with point guard questions with the way they can pressure and fly around with athletes. Sounds like Broom's going to play. So I'm leaning towards the Tigers there. I haven't bet it yet, but if I get 9.5 after the show, I may end up adding it.
Mason moneyline. Jim's wrong. Next game.
Next game. We're going to Philly 5, baby. Philly 5. We've got LaSalle and Villanova, 2 coaches new to the sideline, new to the head chair, at least at their respective schools. Fran Dunphy has been a part of many Philly 5 games in the past. This is Kyle Neptune's first in charge. Kai, which one has the edge here in a spread of about 15?
Yeah, this one's weird, Jim. Fran Dunphy coming back on the sidelines after a couple-year hiatus. He's great, but is he sharp right now, Matt? Is he got it all together out there?
He's fine. He's not like on his deathbed. We gotta stop these whole narratives like Thad Matta. Is he too old to coach? Yes, Fran Dunphy will be
Matta's pretty young guy.
53.
He's in his 50s.
People were questioning Thad Matta's age and ability to still coach. People were saying that about Dunphy. Dunphy will be fine. He can still hold a clipboard. He knows how to direct.
Dunphy is 20 years older than
Matta's mid-50s. Dunphy's like 73. But people thought Matta was really old. I'll give you that one. I think, look, Nova's pretty banged up. We know there's no Justin Moore. Likely no Cam Whitmore. He's probably out as well. But LaSalle is too big of a mystery for me, Matthew. I don't know if Dunphy really knows what he has yet with this lineup. He adds some physicality and scrappiness with the Drames coming over from St. Mary's, but I think Eric Dixon's going to be just fine. It's also a veteran guard group for LaSalle. Again, I don't think he has it all figured out quite yet for LaSalle, but I don't really trust Villanova with these guys banged up and with Kyle Neptune in his first game with the clipboard.
Yeah, the spread number feels about right to me. Sitting at 15 pretty much across the board. The totals come down. I was thinking under is where you want to be on this game. Just Fran Dunphy, ultra conservative, protect the ball, execution. These are all things that he's going to endure. And you're right, Kai, he brings in the Drame twins. It has a feel of a team that's going to make its pay on the defensive end while there's some offensive turbulence. In Villanova, we've seen them come out of the gate struggle early to score offensively. Now you couple in the new regime, the injuries to the offense. This could get ugly. So I think under is a great bet here at 137, 138.
Yeah, that under is also, again, where I kind of think has the best appeal. The system change offensively for LaSalle is like night and day, kind of a up and down.
You see that movie, Jim?
Night and Day, the one with Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
Always, man. I've seen every cruiser. Come on. I love a cruiser.
I'm a cruiser as well. Scientology stinks, but I like Tom Cruise.
Wow, hot take from Matthew. Anti-Scientology. But yeah, the system change I think is going to be tough because the LaSalle guys aren't familiar with it. Villanova can switch everything. So all the half-court motion stuff, they're just going to like, all right, fine. You set a down screen. I'm not going to move. I think they're going to struggle to score. Villanova missing perhaps their two best offensive weapons in Whitmore and Moore. Caleb Daniels is playing with a mask on. That could be his first game. Maybe there's an adjustment period for that. So I'm leaning towards the under. I don't think either team's going to try to run at all. So leaning towards it, did not bet it though. I'm being very cautious with totals because I got my booty kicked on day one last year on totals. Yeah. So I'm really only going for the super standout ones, but that's a lean. That's a lean there on that one. All right, next up, we're trying to cover some of the most notable teams because
that's right.
There aren't a ton of notable games, but we've got the North Carolina Tar Heels reigning national runner-up, ender of Matthew's Coach K era. Just had to get that dig in there. We'll talk Blue Devils on the other side of the chat mob break, but hosting UNC Wilmington, I always like to start with the in-state battle here. Matt, this feels like a track meet. Both teams like to run, but I mean, if Armando Bacot wants to get 30 and 20, he probably can, right?
Yeah, I know. I talked to my buddy behind the scenes who's a prop guru. Bacot rebounds over. I think he grabs like 20 in this game. Wilmington doesn't really have a legit front court. They are known for playing fast under Siddle, who is a former Kevin Keats assistant. Now, they did kind of slow the tempo last season, which was sort of the impetus of their magical run. If you didn't follow Wilmington last year, they were like the darling that won every game in the final 5 minutes.
Well, they got down by 10 in every game.
Right. They love kind of like playing the old rope-a-dope, and then we're going to come back at you second half. I don't think you can do that against UNC. I know I've had some UNC question marks, but that's like nitpicking at like the elite level. It's men versus boys, I think, in this game, just from a talent perspective. I would lean UNC. 23 feels a little bit light to me.
Yeah, Wilmington, miracle team last year. It seemed like they won and covered every game. They were number 3 in luck in Ken Palm's metric last season, if you're a believer in the regression there. I kind of am. UNC obviously has a lot of massive hype, Jim, this season. I tend to think their spreads are going to be inflated all season. So, fading them, not necessarily a bad idea when the spread is big, but I think Wilmington, with losing Sims and Okaru, too much to replace for me. I would not feel comfortable betting Wilmington in this game. I do lean towards UNC.
So much of their offense was Sims and ball screens, and he just bends the defense, gets other guys driving off closeouts, and North Carolina seemed to tighten their defense at the end of last year. I could see there being defensive letdown where it's like, all right, we cranked it for the postseason. We don't have to bring that intensity as a 23-point favorite here, but it's tough to get tempted by the dog and what I think is going to be a track meet, and the team is completely outclassed at the rim. That just doesn't really excite me for Wilmington. So I would lean towards Carolina as well. Scott Schaefer just mentioned the UNC team total over. I could probably get on board with that,
especially if that Matador UNC non-conference defense shows up again this year. That's probably a pretty good hedge.
Yep. So that's kind of where we're seeing it. Fast, which plays well, a little better for the favorite. All right, I know the questions have been flying in, Mr. Czar. Matthew, what do you got for us here in the first chat mob break of the 22-23 season?
No, I think Kai actually is the official czar of this first round episode here. So
no, it's not. You took that job right before the show started. Kai was taking the second half of Baylor, Mississippi Valley State. Matt, you dropped the ball. All right, we will fly.
I thought you held on to that. That's fine. We'll fly through them. No, I can take it down. That's my fault, Mr. McKeon. I'm a little nervous here, guys. A lot of these questions coming in, I disagree with like all the opinions of the mobsters. By the way, like I really don't feel good about this. So let's just hit on the first one. Taylor Burkfield, NKU -1. Kai, they're playing Kent State. My Golden Flashes.
Yeah,
I like the Flashes. I do.
Yeah, great game, by the way. This one almost made the rundown, but then I knew our overlords would hate mid-majors on the rundown. Ooh, Doster, what are you going to do?
Rob and Jeff hate mid-majors.
I lean towards Kent State in this one too, Matt. I think NKU is the favorite in the horizon, but I think the MAC is a bit of a different class.
Jim, Brandon Bailey, West Virginia, Mount St. Mary's. I know you're kind of selling this Mountaineer team. A lot of question marks.
Which one?
Kind of all over the roster.
Which Mountaineer
good
team?
Question. Great counter. The big Mountaineers, the giant Mountaineers, not the mini Mountaineers. I'm
selling West Phos as a big favorite, but I do think Mount St. Mary's might play a little faster this year. I think that's kind of what Engelstad's always wanted to do. It's what he did at, I think, Southern Vermont before he got to Mount St. Mary's. But he just had a huge roster, and it made sense to play slow and defensive. So a little faster, that hurts them as an underdog. And I think Josh Reeves is out, one of their top 3 guards. That's not great. So maybe a little bit of an overlean and then lean towards a dog. But I didn't end up taking this because of the the questions I have about Mount's scheme this year.
Yeah, I agree. Both teams in transition. I kind of want to wait and see. Kai, West Coast, Jordan B asking about Eastern Washington at Santa Clara. Ooh. Heavy money coming in on the Eagles making the short-ish trip to Northern California there. Santa Clara, an ATS darling last year when they were healthy. Can they revamp last year's mojo, even though they lost like all their best players?
I was pretty close to pulling the trigger on Ewash. They bring back basically everyone from last year. I think they're extremely well coached. David Riley acquitted himself nicely last season after Legans went to Portland. They can shoot. We know that. And I like dogs that can shoot. I've always also kind of been a bit lower on Santa Clara, mostly in the non-conference. They tend to be a little bit overrated, in my opinion, in Ken Palm's initial ratings. However, they were very good last year. I agree. I lean towards the Eagles.
Yeah, Santa Clara caught lightning in a bottle last year. They had a lottery pick on their team.
That's legit lottery pick.
That helps.
Although Herb Sendek knows how to coach, so I'm not going to disrespect what he can do with the clipboard. Jim, staying out west, going to you. Washington hosting Weber State, another Big Sky inquiry. It's been bet up. People wanting to bet Mike Hopkins as a large-ish favorite. How did that go last year in the opening game against NIU? As a loser on that side, I will tell you, but I guess this is a little different beast with Weber, Jim.
Yeah, and this Washington team should be back to full-time zone. Like they have the guys to play 2-3 and be really disruptive, long, extend it the way Boeheim has to. So I think they should be a little more stout defensively. Weber's got the coaching change to deal with. They have some talented guards coming, but I don't see a lot of shooting. I think there are a lot of slashers on that roster. So I would probably lean towards the favorite, but I had nothing on this game. I thought the number was about right.
Kyle, how about Chicago's hometown independent team?
Cougs
going to the Big Ten team of Chicago Northwestern. The spread's at 25.
Yeah.
I think Chicago State is oddly talented this year. I like the Cougars.
Hop on the red line, for the team trip up the red line.
Yeah, what stop is that? I don't want to get off to get a Chicago State.
Up north? Oh gosh. I don't even know if you can take the red
Evanston.
line.
Oh yeah, sorry, Evanston. My fault.
It changes to the purple line.
Matt, I don't think Northwestern's that bad this year, despite
I kind of agree.
most prognosticators, but Chicago State, man, with Gerald Gillian in charge, he really showed something last season by making them not total dumpster fire. They were over 500 against the spread. It's not your father's Chicago State, Matthew, where you could just fade them and forget it. I kind of lean towards them at plus 25-ish.
Jim, I know you were discussing this game behind the scenes. Oral Roberts, St. Mary's, who they playing? A lot of money coming in on Oral Roberts, who bring everybody back, going to face the Gales. He wants to know Thomas Titley, Oral Roberts money line. Thoughts?
I guess you could buy into that with the amount of 3-point shooting they have. But they don't bring everybody back because Elijah Lufile, their big man, just had to go pro in was it in October? Late October.
Late October. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that's a big adjustment for them. I think St. Mary's can throw Logan Johnson, maybe the best on-ball defender on the entire West Coast, at Max Asmus. I got in when it was -8.5. That there's been a little tug of war around 9 on this game, kind of back and forth. So I would prefer St. Mary's, but only if it gets back below 9.
Hi, last one. New Mexico, Ramon Reyes. He's going to be all over the Lobos this year. I am not as loco for these year's Lobos, Kai. I was last season. I think the market sniffed out their value. They've been bet up from -6 to -7.5, -8, hosting Southern Utah, another team with a decent amount of talent. I know the home court's good down there in the pit, but I think that's a little too rich for my blood.
I think you're right about sniffing out the upside for New Mexico. I think everyone had them on their list of teams that are going to really improve this season because they do have an awesome team, can definitely compete for a top 4 finish in the Mountain West. However, Southern Utah's pretty talented. Tavion Jones is no joke. He played injured last year, probably would have been among the candidates for player of the year last season. He will be this season in the WAC. He's legit. They also have some other experienced players coming back. Mason Fowzet for one. So I actually lean towards Southern Utah at this price, Matt. I'm not playing it either way, but it's gotten a little bit too high for me.
Shootout.
Yeah, I think so too. Jim, stands at 2. Let's keep going.
Back to the outline. All right, let's do it. We'll hop back in. North Dakota State at Arkansas. The must bus. Can it get out of neutral to start? We know that they were smashed in an exhibition scrimmage at Texas, lost by 30 points, but that one just kind of sounded like the wheels fell off the bus early and they waved a little bit of a white flag against a more experienced team. Not taking too much from it. Kai, big home favorite Arkansas against a team with lacking guards. What do we think here?
Yeah, North Dakota State's well coached, but they're not above getting blown out by power squads. Last year, lost to Zona by 42. lost to Creighton by 35. But Matt, they did hang with Kansas and Creighton back in 2021. It is a well-coached team, like I said. They are a defensive-minded team, can muck things up. But the strength of their team is in the front court this year. Nelson and Morgan are the best players. It's hard to see them having a lot of success against Arkansas's length, athleticism, and like Jim hinted at, that backcourt is extremely troubling against Arkansas. Yoder, the starting point guard, he's solid, but he's 6 feet tall and he's a D3 transfer. White is a JUCO transfer, the presumed starting 2 guard. I lean towards Arkansas here while North Dakota State gets up to speed.
I like the over. I think if you like Arkansas, the over probably correlates pretty well with that. Just North Dakota State should play a little more loose and exhibition-y in this game, which feels like sort of hey, let's just kind of see what we have in the backcourt. We're going to usher in our stud front court, but we have no idea what we have with our guards. Arkansas should feast on that. I know they had troubles in the offseason, but I think they will with pressure. Muss, bust, Jim, fourth gear, full gear, and points both ways. Slightly in Arkansas, bigger lane over.
Call back a term from the weave, the fork. I think this will be a fork where Arkansas wears down the bad back or inexperienced backcourt of North Dakota State, makes a bigger run late in the game. Dave Richmond, North Dakota State's coach, 2-8 against the spread as an underdog of 10 plus over the last 5 years. Not a great big dog, as Kai mentioned a couple of the scores from last year. So I definitely lean towards Arkansas, even if it stays close for a while. I think the Razorbacks will extend. All right, let's move on to UTEP at Texas. Battle in the Lone Star State. 2 coaches who are best friends, Matthew. Many beers will be had after this game. Chris Beard, Joe Golding, 2 best buddies. They're going to know each other's styles back and forth. But I'm not sure either coach knows the UTEP roster because it is brand new, almost entirely. There are 3 returning scholarship players, a lot of transfer guards, a lot of JUCOs on this team. Both teams are going to try to feature a lot of ball pressure defensively. That probably favors Texas. What do you think? This number got bet up a little bit towards the Longhorns.
I love Texas, but I love UTEP too. I wonder if there's like a Duke playing Army thing where Beard's not going to completely blow the doors off his buddy Golding. I'm not sure they necessarily can. I mean, UTEP's kind of a feisty dog. I think Golding has the recipe to keep this close. But if it gets like 20-25 last 8 minutes, Kai, do you think it's sort of a call the dogs off? All that is to say, I'm leaning UTEP.
I don't know. Beard and Golding, they seem like they probably have like a ribbing type of friendship where he's going to try to
Beard wants to like
embarrass him a little
50
bit.
ball him.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll laugh about it later on. But yeah, I don't know if UTEP's switching thing, pressure thing is going to work against Texas's guards. Because say what you will about Carr and Hunter shooting, they can handle the ball. They're very poised. They're experienced. They're legit guards. And UTEP has a brand new roster, like Jim said. Golding needs some time to figure this out. I lean towards Texas here, Jim, even though it does feel a touch high. I think the Longhorns defense is going to be suffocating this season.
Yeah, and you need to be able to score at the rim against them because I don't think they have like a great rim protector unless Disu is like really, really good to go. And maybe he is fully healthy, but he's not like, again, like the kind of rim, like Tarek Owens when Beard had him at Texas Tech. Like that's a true rim protector. You also probably want to be able to shoot a little bit over the top of Beard when he packs it in with some of that no middle stuff. I don't know if UTEP has that. I just think it's a little too high for what I think should be a pretty slow game. I don't think either team's going to push the tempo very much. So leaning towards UTEP there, tempted to take it. I won't make it an official show bet or anything, but I may bet it off show just because I think UTEP's a lot more competent than the turnover on their roster might indicate. Matthew, we're going to close with 2 games that are very near and dear to your heart. That's right. First the Hoosiers, then the Dukies. Start with Morehead State headed to IU, the Big Ten favorites hosting the reigning champions of, well, not champions, I guess. Murray State was a champion of the OVC, but Morehead maybe the preseason favorite here with Belmont and Murray gone. What do you think of the spread? Too big, or is IU going to hit the gas pedal here?
I think it's a gas pedal for sure, but the number has been bet up pretty substantially now. It's up to 24.5, 25, maybe a shop or two, opened at 21. I think Indiana will play well as a largest favorite this year, which is something I've not said in prior seasons. I don't know what the data says on that, but they played loosey-goosey at times last year when the lead extended. The real bet here, I think, is over. I know Spradlin is going to have more of a helter-skelter type of approach this year without Broom up front. I think there's points galore in this game. I think IU gets up early, and then both teams kind of treat it as like a second half like a rec game.
Yeah, I think it's a tough matchup for Morehead. First of all, bad news that Lathon's out. Their expected point guard. That's a huge blow for them. Also,
Great defender. Very good defender.
Yeah, and life without Broome is tough, but it's especially tough when you're facing one of the best front courts in the country with Race Thompson and TJD. Spradlin's a really good coach, but he's going to be relying on his backcourt to disrupt Indiana, and I'm just not sure he can do that, Jim. I think Indiana's a bit overrated, and it's not a bad bet on a coach that I like in Spradlin, but if he wants to run, like Matt suggests, it kind of plays in Indiana's hands.
Yeah, you want to make Indiana score over the top in the half court. And if they're not going to have to do that, then that's a problem. They don't have Broome to protect the rim anymore. This probably wears out, and the advantage doesn't matter after like a game or two. But Morehead State returns like half of a starter, maybe one. Indiana returns 4. They're a lot more figured out as to what they are. Even if they are integrating Hood Schifino and Renault into the lineup, I think Indiana is going to be more of a finished product at this stage, and Morehead's going to be kind of figuring things out. So if I'm betting purely on number, it would be Morehead, but I think there's some matchup stuff that scares me a little bit. All right, Kai, I'm gonna go to Matt first again, just because it is the Dukies here on the last one.
Hey, fair enough, Jim. Do it.
We got Jacksonville headed to Duke. Jacksonville, one of the best interviews I think we did for the Almanac in the offseason, where Jordan Mincy told Kai, like, openly, we want to play ugly. We want to be a Big Ten team. Like every other coach says, speed the tempo up. That is not Jacksonville's game. They're going to play physical with a young Duke team that will not have Dariq Whitehead, may or may not have a banged up Derek Lively. What do you think, Matt? Is this too tricky of a first matchup for John Shire?
Yeah, it's tricky. I don't think we're like Duke's in any risk of losing this game. But the Houston Light model will play very well against a young and inexperienced team, especially one that could be playing a lot more small ball up front with the injuries to Lively, notably. However, I think Duke looked very good in their exhibition. We had some inside intel that Jacksonville competed with Florida for a few minutes, so that's, I guess, interesting to know. But just in general, we like Mincy Kai. We think he's a great coach. I think this is a tough game for Duke to really, go full bore, run them off the gym, type thing. So I'd stay away.
I think it's a massively hard first opponent for Duke here. Jacksonville's experience, tough, gritty, and the young Blue Devils are banged up, and they're going to be really banged up after this game. They're going to be bruised after they play Jacksonville. That's what Mincy does. He wants to play like a Big Ten team. That's what he told me in the Almanac this offseason. They like playing slow. They like playing nitty gritty. The question is, Jim, can the Dolphins score enough to win? Maybe not, but I think they're going to keep the possession count low enough and frustrate Duke enough to probably stay within that 15 points. I would lean their way if it's a tooth and nail type of game. Maybe Duke pulls it out late.
Yeah, I mean, to your point of wanting to play like a Big Ten team, they have Omar Payne, formerly of Illinois, up front.
They're big up front.
Yep. He and Osifo, 2 different guys that started their careers at Florida or their D1 careers. Omar Payne, known for throwing elbows. So watch out, Derek Lively and Kyle Filipowski.
Yep.
Careful of that. But there's also some scoring pop in the backcourt. Kevion Nolan can fill it up if he gets going. Their points per game are so deceiving because they play slow, because of their style. Coach K was always one of the best, like, big favorite cover guys, unless he was playing Army, or in the last year, I think they played last year, 2 years ago, they played Campbell, who slowed him down, has that intricate offense. They almost drain the clock offensively. And I feel like Jacksonville can do that. So I took Jacksonville, I believe it's 17 plus 17. I don't know where it's at now.
Good number, around 15 and a half.
15 and a half. Okay. So I think they keep it competitive for almost the entire way. And maybe don't scare Duke, but they're like, all right, we're not invincible, that kind of thing.
Yeah, they don't ever fold, I don't think, in this game. I agree.
All right. I know there are more chat questions. Hopefully we've got
too many.
Our situation figured out.
We got it.
Sort through as best you can.
Rapid fire-ish. Kai, I'm going to you first. West-ish coast matchup. Nevada hosting the artist formerly known as Dixie State, now known as Utah Tech. The Trailblazers. I think it's a short number. Nevada's only laying 11. Again, another one where I'm against the chat mobster. Mr. Savage believes that the Dixies have some value. I think Nevada blows them out, even though they're injured.
Yeah, the injury is what kind of kept me away. I was leaning towards Nevada as well, Matt. I kind of like that Sherfield's no longer on that team. I think their chemistry might be a little bit better. But Utah Tech, despite bringing a lot of people back from last year, Matt, they do lose Schofield, their best player, first-team all-WAC guy. Judkins is a great coach, but I do think this one feels a tad bit short to me.
Addition by Surf Traction.
Good, Jim. Very good. First
punt. I hope that works out in my favor. Jim, Uncle J Poker. Can you give me your thoughts on Brown, Vermont? I don't have a ton of take on the Ivy. to be honest. So fill me in.
Quite honestly, I can't
Fill
have a
us in.
take until I know if Dylan Penn is playing. He's like actual game time decision coming off an injury. It was supposed to be out 4 to 6 weeks. I think we're right about 4 weeks. It's supposed to be Vermont's best player coming over from Bellarmine. Real unconventional like guard that posts up. So I would maybe lean towards the over. I think the number has been bet up a little bit, but you got to know Penn's status, side or total. I think he's very, very important. So check the lineup on that one.
Jim, going right back to you. A pair of Undertaker inquiries. Arizona State, Tarleton State from Teddy Spencer, and IUPUI, Iowa State from Ryan. I actually like the over in the latter. Any thoughts on either of those two undas or Undertaker?
I kind of like the under in both. I think Tarleton, like if you go through the possession counts when they play high major teams, they just suck the life out of the game. And they try to force like a turnover. And so they could have back-to-back possessions that are 30 seconds long and you don't get a shot up because of turnovers. That's a minute where you don't even have a chance to score. So I would lean towards the under for Tarleton. And then, Iowa State games you're going to have to really work to convince me to bet an over on an Iowa State game this year. Even if IUPUI is going to run a little more than last season and has a little more depth, Iowa State's so tilted, Kyle, lopsided lovely. They're tilted towards the defensive end.
Love it.
Would you believe if I told you IUPUI put up, what was it, 90 or 100 in their exhibition game? Like we didn't think that was even possible, no matter who they were playing. But that is helps when you have more than 5.5 players. Yeah. Kai, how about Andrew Carr asked about Penn versus Iona? Another injury question.
Wake Forest transfer, Andrew Carr.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you.
We've made that joke before. I wonder if it really is him.
It's funnier this time. Kai, thoughts on that game? Sounds like Jordan Dingle, the stud pro prospect for Penn, is going to probably play after getting hurt. The money was moving back and forth based on his situation.
I think that's why you see it come back down to 6.5, I think is where it is right now. I think it got up to 8.5. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat mob. But I don't feel good about either side here. If Dingle was out, I would definitely lean towards Iona. But man, I don't want to fade Penn regardless because these Ivy teams are tough in the non-con. Jim, I need the stats on this, but I would wager the Ivies are above 500 and maybe even significantly so in the non-conference.
Yeah, they're just tough to prepare for. And I can confirm Kai did get to 8.5 because I have 8.
It did get 8.5. Jim, good
Quakers.
Take. Yep. Go Quakers.
Jim, you are the founder of Toledo Faders Anonymous, an organization that's geared to helping all those who can't resist themselves betting against Toledo as they continue to outpace their expectations. This new year, some new players, but a lot of the same back for the Rockets. They're laying almost 2 touchdowns, 13 at home against Valpo, who in my opinion is not a terrible basketball team. I'm not fading Toledo this year. I'm fully enlisted in your program. I'm going to follow the course. Where are you at this game?
Yeah, Valpo's not terrible, but Toledo is like a terrific big favorite. They spread the court out. They invert it with their two best shooters are their 2 front court players. They're the best ATS team in the country over the last 2 years. So it wasn't like a 1-year wonder, just combined. They were awesome. So I'm staying away from it too, unless it like really, really inflates. I will, just like Iowa State overs, you're going to have to find a really special situation for me to fade Toledo.
How let's go to our hometown, the Billikens hosting Murray State. Another team in a pretty seismic makeover from last year's awesome NCAA tournament run. The Billies are healthy, poised to make a run in an A10 title. Another one where I feel like it's kind of a big number, though. Murray State still got some talent, and Steve Prohm's at the helm. I don't think he should be catching as many as 13, should he?
My SLU buddy thinks SLU covers pretty easily in this game. If you believe in him,
really?
He's usually pretty right on the SLU games. I'll give him credit for that. But it does feel like a big number. And yes, Murray State lost everybody from last year except DJ Burns. But Steve Prohm, he was Matt McMahon before Matt McMahon at Murray State. He took this team to a tournament, 6 seed, I believe, even took them past the first round, if I'm not mistaken. But that's too many points for me to lay with St. Louis, Matt. I also don't really want to fade St. Louis. They could be legit this season.
Yeah, they could.
It's a hard stay away.
Jim, going to Utah State, Utah Valley. Don't really have an opinion on this game. Sorry. If you don't either, you can deflect and we can move on.
I was hoping you'd go to Utah because I think they're going to blow out Long Island.
LIU, I do too. Add that to the list, guys.
I had a slight lean of the over on the Utah Valley, Utah State game. I think both teams struggle to defend what the other one likes to do. But we're have to figure out Utah Valley a little bit without Fardaws. He was such a centerpiece for that team that they're going to be a whole different style. So I'm staying away.
I got a 2-pack for you from our guy, Ryan A. Belmont, Ohio, and/or UC Riverside, Colorado. I think both of us liked one side in both of these games, but they've been bet accordingly. Current number for Ohio, Belmont is sitting at
Like
6.5. Belmont laying 6.5 at home. I'm sorry.
moving
Yeah,
towards,
to Ohio.
moving towards Belmont, actually.
Okay,
away
so
from
some
Ohio.
money coming back up. Well, hey, if you're a Bobcat believer like I am, I think now's the time to hop on the Bobcats.
I like the Bobcats as well. Love Belmont, but this is not your typical Belmont team. This is probably the least minutes they've had coming back in quite some time, especially under Casey Alexander the last couple of years. So team in flux a little bit. Ohio, of course, loses big pieces too, but too big of a spread. Jeff Bowles, great coach. Lean Ohio, also lean UC Riverside. I'm pretty in on this team this season. Big Magpeo believer. And Colorado, despite
Magpies,
being at home,
baby. Mikey Magpies.
despite being at home, despite having Matt's favorite player, Tristan Da Silva, Colorado, just okay this season, in my opinion.
There's some
The crew in
12s
our
out there.
Pac-12
I kind of like the 12 for Riverside, plus 12.
There's a 12 out there? Hey, not bad.
Yeah. The Riverside boys are going to get this. It's going to be close. I don't get why our Pac-12 preview squad, which is a really solid squad, by the way. Shout out to Jeff Goodman, Doug Gottlieb, and the rest of the crew, but disagree hard on Colorado being like feisty and good and disagree hard on Utah sucking. I think you can just invert those narratives this year. We'll get to that more later.
Feisty and good.
Respectfully disagree.
Good. But Colorado's a big favorite. I don't love.
Yeah, Boyle Ball is a favorite. Nope. Sign off. Bailey going nuts over South Dakota State. They're headed to Akron. One of the darlings in the MAC last year. South Dakota State should have won. Should beat Providence. That's a whole other discussion. Kai, Akron laying 4. Jack Bunnies. How good are they this year without a lot of their key pieces?
Is it still 4? Man, it's 4. Got that back up.
I like a little tug of war in the market. That's good.
Market.
That's good.
Look at that. Pushing back. I like the Jack Bunnies in this game. Key point for Akron here. They're not as athletic and as switchable as last season. Dawson's out for the year. Ali is on Butler right now. That's 2 of their main big switchable perimeter defenders.
Guards and centers now.
Guards and centers. And South Dakota State, they shoot. Led the country in 3-point percentage. Pretty much all those guys are back. They lost Douglas Wilson, but man, they have an awesome front court up front with Morris, Dentlinger, and Apple. That is a tough threesome, even with Enrique Freeman up front for Akron. If he gets in foul trouble, South Dakota State, I think, can win outright.
A couple more here. Actually, there's a lot more. Excuse me.
We'll go more rapid.
Let's go West Coast, Jim. Cal Baptist. They're hosting Long Beach State. There's a key injury question mark in this one.
Yeah, Joel Murray plays. I like Beach, but he's debatable if he's going to be out there. He didn't play in their most recent exhibition. He's by far their best player without Slater there anymore. You got to make sure he's in, but I still think they are athletic enough to defend the Cal Baptist Taron Armstrong pick and roll offense. The Abubakar Traore is like maybe the best defensive player in the Big West. So I would lean towards Beach. Just make sure that Joel Murray is playing there.
Kai, any thoughts on UAB laying 26 now? It's been bet up pretty heavily. They're playing Alabama State, who's now under new stewardship this year.
High, right?
I think it's pretty high. I like Tony Madlock as a coach, but UAB is a pretty terrifying favorite. Yeah, UAB could be really good this year.
I skipped over this game when I was looking through it.
UAB feels a lot like this year's Murray to me. Other games, one more. Oh, Ramon asking, are Temple's under back in this year? Temple does defend. That is their calling card. They are currently slated to play Wagner. It's been bet down over 6 points. Did I miss that? So there's a big Temple Wagner underlean, I guess I must have missed out on. So yeah, any thoughts on this game, guys? Temple Wagner.
That's surprising. Caleb Battle's going to play, and he's like their best offensive player.
Best shooter scorer. Yeah. Okay. So over it is. Boom. You heard it here first. That's it, Jim. That's all I got. One more comes. Actually, at the buzzer, here we go. Kai, UC San Diego, Seattle. Heavy West Coast presence on the chat mob today. I like the Tritons this year in a sort of a transition year for Seattle.
Yeah, it wasn't someone out for Seattle. Gosh, it all runs together, Matthew. They have a lot of questions to answer at point guard. I don't think it's very stable right now. I don't really like UC San Diego either. They lost Tony Rochak. He basically led the country in usage last season. It's a hard stay away for me, Matt.
Yeah, I like the Tritons. I lead Tritons as well.
Jerron Brooks from Washington is going to be a nice little player this year. That's all I got, Jim. Back to you.
All right, well, we got to go to best bets now. We got to make sure we cover those.
Back to us.
Smash the like. Smash the like. Do it.
Smash the like button. Subscribe. I believe we have the chat set to subscribers only, so you're not going to be able to hurl questions at us unless you are subscribed. So get on that channel. Make sure you're there, and we will be fielding your questions. All right, I'll start. Best bets in order. Jimbo is going with UT Rio Grande Valley.
The Vaqueros.
On the road at Kansas State. Let me get the updated line here. I saw 19 pre-show. My screen is loading right now. 18. I will take The Vaqueros plus 18. I think they're better than a lot of analytics sites are giving them credit for because they lost everybody. But it's kind of like a total roster overhaul in year 2 for Matt Figger. Pretty good coach. I think the JUCO guys are a little better than expected. And the one returner they do have is like by far their best player from last season. So I think they'll compete. I don't love Kansas State as a big favorite trying to sort things out without Nigel Pack. Keontae Johnson is awesome, but give me Rio Grande Valley to cover that relatively large spread on the road. And they've taken a lot of money in the market. They were like 21.5, 22 at open. So next up, kicking it over to Matthew.
Yeah, Jim took mine. Go Vaqueros. But I'm going for the very, very, very last game of the slate tonight, all the way out west, up in Oregon, Pacific Northwest, tips off at 11 Eastern. They're hosting Tulsa, and for some reason, Kai, they're favored. Oregon State should be favored against anyone this season. So I'm taking Tulsa plus 3.
They should be favored against Tulsa, right?
They should not. No, they should not.
So
Tulsa under new coach Eric Conkle, coaching upgrade, if I might say so myself. The roster is not so terrible. I think they have the best player on the floor, and it's the first game of the year. So why should Oregon State's home be anything crazy? I don't know. Tulsa plus 3, best bet.
I hear Corvallis is very nice this time of year.
It is. Fall.
Lovely, lovely.
The leaves. Yeah, it's very nice.
All right, my best bet, guys, is Florida minus 24.5. Stony Brook, several injury questions. We already know Aaron Clark, chief among them. He's out indefinitely, as reported. Dean Knoll, they're one of their projected starters, tore his ACL before the season started. A lot of injury questions against a Gator defense that I think is going to be elite this season, potentially top 15 good. Stony Brook's going to have a lot of trouble scoring. The athletes, Jim, here, they're just in a different class. So minus 24.5 at BetRivers. I'll take the Gators.
Also like the under on that one. I almost made the under my best bet. Heck, you know what? We'll make it 2.
I knew it.
Best bets. I'm going to do it. I can't resist the Undertaker in the first show of the year. So I'll join you, Kai, on that one. Under 143.5, second best bet to join UT Rio Grande Valley. All right, that's it. We're answering a couple extra questions in the chat via typing if we missed a couple. So send them there and we'll try to answer them. But that's it for today. I believe we're back tomorrow, right, fellas? For the 8-game slate, it'll be a much shorter show.
We'll hit every single game. Guaranteed.
Yes, we will. That's a weave guarantee. Mm-hmm. Thank you again to BetRivers. Thank you to Field 68. It's good to be back, fellas. Let's enjoy the 125 more games that are still to tip on today's slate.